The small ship drifted in the endless black of space. It turned slowly, like a leaf floating on dark water. Inside, Captain Teho Park sat in the pilot's seat with his eyes closed. He was counting his breaths. Each one was harder than the last. The oxygen meter on the wall showed a red number, 4%. Maybe 5 hours left, maybe less. Teho opened his eyes and looked at the empty seat next to him. Lieutenant Jinho Kwon had sat there 11 days ago before the reactor failed, before the explosion, before everything went wrong. Now Jinho was gone and Teho was alone. He reached forward and pressed the record button on the console. A small light turned green. "This is Captain Teho Park," he said. His voice was weak and tired. "Korean Space Force. Exploration Vessel Horizon. Day 11 of emergency drift. Reactor is dead. Life support is failing. I do not think rescue will come." He paused and looked out the window at the stars. So many stars, so far from home. "To my mother in Busan," he continued, "I am sorry I cannot come home. Please take care of father. Tell my sister I love her. Tell her to be brave." He stopped the recording. He did not have the strength to say more. Teho had sent his distress signal on the first day. It was still sending now, a weak radio pulse going out into the darkness. But he was too far from Earth, too far from any human ship. The signal would take years to reach anyone who could help. He closed his eyes again and waited to die. Far away in a different part of space, a ship moved through the stars. It was not a human ship. It was longer and smoother, shaped like a silver fish. This was a Velen science vessel, and it carried 12 souls on a journey home. Elder Rovi stood at the center of the bridge. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and large eyes that held centuries of wisdom. The Velens were an old species. They had traveled the stars for thousands of years. They had seen much, but they preferred peace to war. They studied the universe. They did not conquer it. "Elder," said a young voice behind him, "I am detecting something strange." Rovi turned to see Kessa at her station. She was young for a Velen, barely 50 years old. Her eyes were bright with curiosity. She worked as the ship's medic, but she often helped with scans and sensors. "What do you see?" Rovi asked. "A signal," Kessa said. "Very weak. It repeats in a pattern. I think it is a distress call." Rovi walked to her station and looked at the screen. The signal was indeed weak. It came from a small object drifting in space, far from any planet or station. "Can you identify the source?" he asked. Kessa worked her controls. An image appeared on the screen. It showed a small vessel, damaged and dark. No lights, no engine power, dead in space. "I do not recognize the design," Kessa said. "It is not from any species in our records." Rovi felt a cold feeling in his chest. An unknown species. This was dangerous. The Velens had learned long ago that not all species were kind. Some were hunters, some were destroyers. The Krath Dominion had taught them this lesson many times. "We should continue our journey," said Commander Talos from across the bridge. He was older than Kessa but younger than Rovi. His job was to keep the crew safe. "Unknown species are not our concern. We have protocols." "But there is someone alive in that ship," Kessa said. She pointed at her screen. "I am detecting one life sign, weak, failing. They will die soon." "That is not our problem," Talos said. "It is a problem for them," Kessa replied. Rovi raised his hand for silence. He looked at the image of the drifting ship. Inside that metal shell, someone was dying. Someone who had called out for help. Someone who probably knew that no help would come. "What are our medical supplies?" Rovi asked. Kessa checked her records. "Limited. We have enough for our journey home, but not much more. If we use them on a stranger, we may not have enough if one of our own becomes sick." "Then we should not risk it," Talos said firmly. Kessa stood up from her seat. Her eyes were filled with something Rovi had seen before. It was the fire of youth, the belief that doing right was more important than being safe. "Elder," she said, We are Velan. We have traveled the stars for 3,000 years. We have learned much about the universe. But what have we learned about ourselves if we can hear someone dying and do nothing? Talos made an angry sound. This is foolish emotion. No, Rovi said quietly. This is who we are supposed to be. He made his decision. Change course, he ordered. We will approach the vessel. Kessa, prepare the medical bay. We will bring the survivor aboard. Talos wanted to argue, but he saw the look in Rovi's eyes. The elder had decided. There was nothing more to say. The Velan ship changed direction and moved toward the drifting human vessel. Tiho woke to a sound he did not expect. A soft bump against his ship, then another. He opened his eyes and saw lights outside his window, bright lights, moving lights. He thought he was dreaming. He thought his dying brain was showing him false hope. Then his airlock opened. Figures entered his ship. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and large eyes. They wore silver suits and moved carefully, like they were afraid of breaking something. Tiho tried to speak, but no words came out. He was too weak, too tired, too close to death. One of the figures came to him. It was smaller than the others, younger. Its eyes were filled with something Tiho recognized. It was concern, it was care. The creature touched his face gently. Its fingers were cool and soft. Tiho did not know what this being was. He did not know its language or its home or its name. But he knew one thing. It had come to help. Tears fell from his eyes. He could not stop them. He had been alone for so long. He had been ready to die, and now someone had come. The young alien made a soft sound. It seemed surprised by his tears. It looked at the others and spoke in a language Tiho could not understand. Then they lifted him gently and carried him out of his dying ship. Kessa had never seen a creature like this before. It was strange and soft, with dark hair and brown eyes that leaked water. She did not understand why water came from its eyes, but she knew it meant something important. She worked on him for 3 days. She used medicines from their supplies. She used machines to help him breathe. She stayed by his side when others slept. Slowly the creature grew stronger. Its eyes became clearer. Its breathing became easier. On the 3rd day it woke fully and looked at her. It tried to speak, but she did not understand its words. So instead, it did something that changed everything. It pressed its hands together and lowered its head toward her. Then it looked up with those wet brown eyes and made a sound that needed no translation. It was saying thank you. Kessa felt something warm in her chest. This strange creature, this unknown being from an unknown world, was showing her gratitude, pure and simple gratitude. She did not know that this moment would change the future of her people. She did not know that this single act of kindness would echo across the galaxy. She only knew that she had done the right thing. And that was enough. Elder Rovi watched from the doorway. He saw the human bow its head. He saw Kessa's reaction, and he made another decision. Change our course again, he told Talos. We will take this being home. We will return it to its people. That will add months to our journey, Talos said. Yes, Rovi agreed, it will. He looked at the human, still weak but alive, still grateful, still crying those strange tears. Some things are worth the delay, Rovi said. And so the Velan ship turned once more and began the long journey toward an unknown world called Earth, carrying with it a single human life and a debt that humanity would never forget. 3 months had passed since the Velans found Tiho drifting in space. In that time, he had learned much about his rescuers. He learned their names. He learned some of their words. He learned that they were kind and gentle and afraid of almost everything in the galaxy. He also learned that they had given him medicine meant for themselves. They had changed their journey to bring him home. They had asked for nothing in return. Now, as the Velan ship approached Earth's solar system, Tiho stood on the bridge and watched his home grow larger on the screen. The blue and green planet, the swirling white clouds, the place where his mother still waited, not knowing if her son was alive or dead. "Your world is beautiful," Kessa said beside him. She had learned some human words too. Their conversations were slow and full of mistakes, but they understood each other. "Yes," Tiho said, "it is." A warning sound filled the bridge. Commander Talos looked at his screens with worry. "We are being scanned," he said. "Multiple sources. Your people have many eyes watching the sky." Tiho nodded. He knew Earth's defense systems would detect the alien ship. He knew they would be afraid. Humans had never met another species before. They did not know if aliens were friends or enemies. "I must send a message," Tiho said. "They need to hear my voice." Elder Rovi agreed. He gave Tiho access to the communication system. Tiho took a deep breath and began to speak. "This is Captain Tiho Park of the Korean Space Force. I am aboard an alien vessel approaching Earth. Do not fire. I repeat, do not fire. These beings saved my life. They found me dying in space and used their own supplies to heal me. They have traveled for months to bring me home. They mean us no harm. They only want to return me to my people. Please let them approach in peace." He sent the message and waited. On Earth, the message arrived at Space Command Headquarters in Seoul. General Suho Lim stood in the command center, surrounded by screens showing the alien ship. His officers were nervous. Some wanted to fire. Some wanted to run. No one knew what to do. Then they heard Tiho's voice. The room went silent. Everyone listened. When the message ended, General Lim looked at his officers. "You heard him," the general said. "They saved one of ours. We will welcome them." The order went out across Earth. All defense systems stood down. Ships were sent to escort the Velen vessel, not to attack it but to guide it safely. The world held its breath and watched. Dr. Hana Seo was waiting at the landing site. She was a language expert who had spent her whole life studying how different people communicate. Now she would try to talk to beings from another world. She was terrified. She was also excited. The Velen ship landed softly in a field outside Seoul. Thousands of people watched from behind barriers. Cameras from every nation pointed at the silver vessel. The whole world was watching. The door opened. Tiho walked out first. He was thin and pale, but he was alive. Behind him came Elder Rovi, tall and serious. Then came Kessa, her large eyes looking at everything with wonder. Then came others, 12 Velens in total, standing on Earth for the first time. Hana stepped forward with her translation device ready. But before she could speak, Tiho did something unexpected. He turned to face Elder Rovi and Kessa. Then he dropped to his knees. Everyone gasped. Cameras zoomed in. The world watched as the rescued pilot knelt before the aliens who had saved him. "In my culture," Tiho said loudly so everyone could hear, "when someone saves your life, you owe them a debt, a life debt. It can never be fully repaid, but you spend the rest of your days trying." He pressed his forehead to the ground. "Elder Rovi, Kessa, you saved my life when you had no reason to. You gave me your medicine. You gave me your time. You gave me hope when I had none. My life belongs to you now. And through me, the gratitude of my people belongs to you as well." Hana translated his words for the Velens. Kessa made a small sound of surprise. Elder Rovi's eyes grew wide. "We do not understand," Rovi said through the translator. "We only did what was right. We do not need payment." Tiho raised his head. "That is exactly why you deserve it." In the days that followed, the Velens were treated as honored guests. They stayed in comfortable rooms. They ate human food, or at least the food that would not make them sick. They met with leaders from every nation. Hana worked closely with them, building a way for the two species to talk. She learned that the Velens were peaceful scientists. She learned that they had traveled the stars for thousands of years. She also learned something troubling. "There is a species called the Krath," Rovi explained during one meeting. "They are conquerors. They take what they want. They destroy what they cannot take. For many years they have threatened our people. We have no weapons. We cannot fight them. We can only run and hide." General Lim listened carefully. "Why do they threaten you?" "Because we are weak," Kessa said sadly. "In this galaxy the strong take from the weak. That is the way of things." Admiral Unibeak was at that meeting. She was a stern woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes. She commanded Earth's United Fleet, the combined military of all human nations. "Not the way of all things," she said quietly. The meetings continued for 2 weeks. Treaties were discussed. Trade was planned. Communication systems were exchanged. The Velans were amazed at humanity. They had expected to find a single government, a single language, a single way of thinking. Instead, they found hundreds of nations, thousands of languages, and billions of different opinions. "How do you function?" Talos asked one day. "You argue about everything, you fight among yourselves, yet somehow you work together." General Lim smiled. "We have had much practice. We are not perfect, but we are learning." On the last day before the Velans departed, there was a formal ceremony. Leaders from around the world gathered to say goodbye. Gifts were exchanged. Speeches were given. Then General Lim approached Elder Rovi privately. "I want you to know something," the general said. "What you did for Tiho we will not forget. Humans have long memories. We remember our enemies, but we also remember our friends." He pressed a small device into Rovi's hands. It was a communication unit, specially made to reach across the stars. "If you ever need help," General Lim said, "call us. Day or night, near or far, we pay our debts." Rovi looked at the device. It was small and simple. He did not think he would ever use it. "Thank you," he said, "but I do not think we will need to trouble you. Our problems are our own." General Lim shook his head. "Your problems are now our problems too. You helped one of us. That makes you family." Rovi did not understand this concept. Family was blood. Family was birth. How could strangers become family? He would learn the answer soon enough. The Velen ship lifted off from Earth that evening. Thousands watched it rise into the sky. Tiho stood among them, watching his friends disappear into the stars. Kessa had given him a small token before leaving. It was a piece of crystal from her homeworld, carved with symbols of friendship. She had told him to remember her. As if he could ever forget. "They are good people," Admiral Beak said, standing beside him. "Kind people." "Yes," Tiho agreed. "Too kind, maybe. The galaxy is not safe for kind people." Admiral Beak nodded slowly. "Then perhaps we should make it safer." Tiho looked at her. "What do you mean?" She did not answer. She just watched the sky where the Velen ship had disappeared, her sharp eyes full of thoughts she did not share. Somewhere in her mind, a plan was forming. Humanity had been alone in the universe for a long time. Now they had friends, and Unibeak knew better than anyone that friends must be protected. Whatever the cost. In the years to come, she would prove just how far humanity was willing to go for those who showed them kindness. The galaxy would learn that humans were not like other species. They did not forget. They did not abandon those who helped them. They paid their debts. In full. With interest. But that day was still in the future. For now, the Velen ship sailed home through the stars, carrying memories of a strange blue world and its even stranger people. And in Rovi's pocket sat a small communication device that he thought he would never need. He was wrong. 2 years passed like water through fingers. On the Velen homeworld, life continued as it always had. The scientists studied. The children learned. The elders guided their people with wisdom and patience. But shadows were growing at the edge of their space. The Krath Dominion was moving. Their great warships had conquered 3 systems in the past year. Species that had lived in peace for centuries were now slaves or corpses. The Krath took what they wanted and destroyed what they did not need. High Speaker Maru stood in the council chamber and listened to the reports. She was the leader of her people, chosen for her wisdom and calm nature. But today, calm was hard to find. "How many ships?" she asked. "Over 400, replied her advisor. "They will reach our border in 30 days, our world in 40. Maru closed her eyes. 400 warships. The Velans had no military. They had observation vessels and science ships and transport craft. Nothing that could fight. Nothing that could protect them. "What about our neighbors?" she asked. "Have they responded to our requests for help?" "They have," the advisor said quietly. "They all said no. They are afraid of the Krath. No one wants to stand against them." Maru had expected this answer, but it still hurt. The Velans had been good neighbors for thousands of years. They had shared knowledge freely. They had helped others when they could. And now, when they needed help, everyone turned away. "Then we must prepare to evacuate," Maru said. "We will scatter to the far stars. We will lose our home, but we will survive." "Some of us," the advisor corrected gently. "We do not have enough ships for everyone." Maru felt her heart break. She would have to choose who lived and who died. She would have to look at families and tell some of them that there was no room. She would have to carry that weight forever. "There is one other option," said a voice from the back of the room. Maru turned. Kessa stood there, no longer a young medic but now an ambassador. Her eyes were tired but determined. "The humans," Kessa said. The council fell silent. Some remembered the humans from 2 years ago, strange creatures with strange ways. They had seemed friendly, but they were far away and few in number. What could they do against the Krath? "They gave us a communication device," Kessa continued. "They said to call if we needed help. General Lim said their problems were now our problems. He said we were family." "They were being polite," another council member said. "It is what species do when saying goodbye. They make promises they do not intend to keep." "Maybe," Kessa admitted, "or maybe they meant it." Maru thought about this. She had met the humans briefly during their visit. She had seen how they looked at their rescued pilot. She had seen the tears in Tiho's eyes when he knelt before Rovi and Kessa. Humans were emotional creatures. They felt things deeply. But did they feel deeply enough to die for strangers? "Where is Elder Rovi?" Maru asked. "I am here." Rovi walked slowly into the chamber. He was older now, his movements careful and measured, but his eyes were still sharp. "What do you think?" Maru asked him. "You spent the most time with the humans. Would they come?" Rovi was quiet for a long moment. He remembered the blue world and its billions of people. He remembered General Lim pressing the communication device into his hands. He remembered the Admiral with the sharp eyes, watching the sky as they left. "I do not know," Rovi finally said. "Humans are strange. They fight among themselves constantly. They disagree about everything. But when Tiho knelt before us, something changed in their eyes, all of them, every human watching. They looked at us differently after that." "Differently how?" Maru asked. "Like we belonged to them," Rovi said slowly. "Like we were theirs to protect." Silence filled the chamber. Maru made her decision. "Send the message," she said. Kessa nodded. She walked to a console and pulled out the human communication device. It was small and simple, unchanged after 2 years. She activated it and began to speak. "This is Ambassador Kessa of the Velan people, calling for the humans of Earth. 2 years ago, we helped one of your people, Captain Tiho Park. We saved his life. Your leaders told us to call if we needed help. We need help now." She paused, her voice shaking. "The Krath Dominion is coming. 400 warships. We have no weapons. We cannot fight. Our neighbors have abandoned us. In 40 days, our world will fall. Our people will die or become slaves. We are sending our coordinates, please. If you meant what you said, if your words were true, please come." She ended the message and sent it into the stars. Then she sat down and waited. On Earth, it was the middle of the night. Most of the world was sleeping, but the stars never slept, and neither did the people who watched them. In the Space Command Center in Seoul, a young officer noticed an incoming signal. It was weak and strange, coming from very far away. He almost ignored it, almost marked it as noise. Then he recognized the frequency. It matched the communication devices given to the Velans 2 years ago. He played the message. 2 minutes later, he was running down the hallway to wake Admiral Una Beak. Una was dreaming of the ocean when the knock came. She woke instantly, her soldier's instincts sharp even after sleep. She opened the door and saw the young officer, pale and breathing hard. "What is it?" she demanded. "A message, Admiral, from the Velans." She took the device from his hands and listened. Kessa's voice filled the room, scared and desperate. 400 warships, 40 days, please come." Una stood very still when the message ended. "Get me General Lim," she said. "Admiral, it is 3 in the morning." "I know what time it is. Get me General Lim now." 20 minutes later, she was on a call with the general. His face was tired on the screen, but his eyes were alert. "I heard the message," he said. "What do you think?" "I think they helped one of ours," Una replied. "I think we made a promise." 400 Krath warships is not a small problem, Admiral." "No, it is not." General Lim was quiet. He remembered standing before Elder Rovi, pressing the communication device into the alien's hands. He remembered his words, "Call us. We pay our debts." Had he meant them? Or were they just polite sounds, as the Velan Council member had suggested? He looked at Admiral Beak. Her eyes were hard and certain. She had already made her decision. She was just waiting for his permission. "How many ships can we send?" he asked. "Everything we have," she said. "If we do this, we do it right. We send a message to the whole galaxy. We show them what happens when someone helps humanity." General Lim thought about the costs. Ships, resources, lives. Human lives spent to protect aliens they had known for only a few weeks. Then he thought about Tiho, kneeling in the dirt, pressing his head to the ground in gratitude. He thought about what it meant to be human. What kind of people did he want humanity to be? "Wake everyone," he said. Admiral Beak nodded. She had expected this answer. She had hoped for it. "Yes, sir." She ended the call and began making others. Within an hour, lights were turning on across Earth. Military leaders were being summoned. Ships were being prepared. The largest fleet deployment in human history was beginning. In Busan, Captain Tiho Park was woken by a call from his commanding officer. "The Velans need help," the voice said. "We are mobilizing everything. I thought you would want to know." Tiho sat up in bed, his heart pounding. "I want to go," he said immediately. "I want to be there." "I thought you might. Report to headquarters at 600. You have been given command of a frigate, the Soul's Promise." Tiho ended the call and sat in the darkness. His hands were shaking. Kessa was in danger. Rovi was in danger. The people who had saved his life were facing destruction. But they would not face it alone. He got dressed quickly and went to his mother's house. She was already awake, somehow knowing that her son was coming. "You are leaving," she said. It was not a question. "They saved my life," Tiho replied. "I have to help them." His mother nodded. She was scared for him, but she was also proud. She had raised him to be honorable, to pay his debts, to stand with those who stood with him. "Come back to me," she said. "I will try," he promised. Then he left to join the fleet that would answer the call. Across Earth, similar scenes played out. Pilots kissed their families goodbye. Engineers worked through the night. Soldiers checked their weapons and said their prayers. The humans were coming. And the galaxy would never be the same. The Krath fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel like wolves arriving at a sheep farm. 400 warships, dark and massive, filled the sky above the Velan homeworld. Their commander, Warlord Drex, looked at the planet below with satisfaction. This would be easy. The Velans had no weapons, no allies, no hope. Begin the surrender broadcast, Drex ordered. Tell them they have 1 hour to submit. Anyone who resists will be destroyed. His communications officer sent the message. On the planet below, millions of Velans heard it. Many wept. Some held their families close. Some prayed to gods who seemed very far away. In the council chamber, High Speaker Maru listened to the threat with a calm face that hid a broken heart. 40 days had passed since they sent their message to Earth. No response had come. The humans were not coming. They had been alone all along. "What do we do?" asked her advisor. Maru opened her mouth to order the surrender. What else could she do? Her people would become slaves, but at least they would live. At least some of them would survive. But before she could speak, alarms began to sound. "What is happening?" Maru demanded. Her advisor checked his screens. His eyes went wide. His hands started shaking. "Speakers," he whispered, "something is coming." Above the planet, the Krath fleet detected it too. Warlord Drex watched his screens with growing confusion. Energy signatures were appearing at the edge of the system. Many of them, too many to count quickly. "What is that?" he demanded. Then space itself seemed to tear open. Ships poured through the gap. Not one or two, not a dozen, hundreds of them. They came in perfect formation, organized and precise. Battleships the size of mountains. Carriers filled with smaller fighters. Destroyers bristling with weapons. And at the center, a flagship so large it made even the Krath vessels look small. The Unity, Admiral Unibeek's command ship. Drex stared at his screens. 217 human warships. Behind them came more ships from other species. The Torath, a warrior species that had recently allied with Earth. The Fenari, traders who owed humanity favors. The Meki, engineers who wanted to see what humans would do next. "Where did they come from?" Drex asked. No one answered, no one knew. On the Unity, Admiral Beak stood on her bridge and looked at the Krath fleet. They were exactly where she expected them to be, exactly as arrogant as she had hoped. "Open a channel," she ordered. "All frequencies. I want everyone to hear this." Her communications officer nodded. "Channel open, Admiral." Una stepped forward. Her voice was calm and cold. "Krath Fleet, this is Admiral Unibeek of the Earth United Fleet. I am here to deliver a message." She paused. The whole star system was listening. The Krath, the Velans, every other species watching from far away. 2 years ago, the Velan people saved one human life. His name is Tiho Park. He was a pilot, alone and dying in space. The Velans found him. They used their own medicine to heal him. They changed their journey to bring him home. They asked for nothing in return. She looked out at the Krath ships, her eyes hard as steel. "Today, we return the favor. Your intended victims are under our protection now. Leave this system immediately, or we will make you leave." Warlord Drex listened to the message with growing anger. Who were these creatures? How dare they interfere with Krath business? "You would start a war for strangers," he replied over the open channel. "You would die for people who are not your own." Admiral Beak smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "They are not strangers. They saved one of ours. That makes them family now." "Family?" Drex laughed. "You are fools. The Velans are weak. They cannot offer you anything. They have no weapons, no resources, no value. Why would you risk your lives for such useless creatures?" "Because they helped us when they did not have to," Beak replied simply. "Because kindness should be rewarded, not punished. Because we are human and this is what humans do." Drex did not understand. In his world, the strong took from the weak. Alliances were based on power and profit. The idea of fighting for someone who could offer nothing in return was madness. But he was a warrior. He did not retreat from madness. "Then you will die with them," he said and cut the channel. On the planet below, the Velans watched everything. High Speaker Maru could not believe her eyes. The humans had come. They had actually come. "They brought so many ships," her advisor whispered. Maru nodded, tears streaming down her face. The humans had not just sent help, they had sent everything. Their entire fleet, their mightiest warriors, all for a species they had known for only 2 weeks. In the crowd of Velen observers, Kessa stood frozen. She watched the human ship spread across the sky, blocking out the stars. She thought about Tiho, about the crystal token she had given him, about the strange creature who had cried when she saved his life. They remembered, she said softly. They actually remembered. Above, the two fleets faced each other. Captain Tiho Park stood on the bridge of his frigate, the Soul's Promise. He was not the biggest ship in the fleet. He was not the strongest. But he was here, and that was what mattered. "Captain," his first officer said, "we are receiving orders from the flagship. The Admiral wants us to lead the assault on their left flank." Tiho nodded. His hands were steady on the controls. 2 years ago, he had been dying in the darkness. A young Velen medic had sat beside him, keeping him alive through sheer determination. Now it was his turn to fight for her. "All hands," he said over the ship's speakers. "Battle stations, we have a debt to pay." The Soul's Promise moved forward with the rest of the fleet. Warlord Drex gave his order. "All ships attack, destroy them all." The Krath fleet surged forward. They were confident. They were experienced. They had won 100 battles against a dozen species. They had never fought humans before. The battle began with light and fire. Weapons blazed across the darkness. Ships exploded like tiny suns. The void of space became a storm of destruction. But something strange happened. The humans did not fight like other species. They did not hold back. They did not protect themselves first. They threw themselves at the enemy with a fury that shocked the Krath commanders. Human pilots flew into impossible situations. Human gunners fired until their weapons overheated. Human captains sacrificed their ships to protect others. "They are insane," one Krath officer reported. "They do not care if they die." That was not exactly true. The humans cared very much about living, but they cared about something else more. They cared about the people they had come to save. They cared about keeping their promise. Tiho's frigate danced through the battlefield. He saw a Krath destroyer turning toward a damaged human cruiser. Without thinking, he put his ship between them. "Fire everything," he ordered. The Soul's Promise unleashed its weapons. The Krath destroyer took the hits and turned its guns toward Tiho instead. For a moment, he thought he was going to die. Then a human battleship came from above and tore the destroyer apart. "Nice timing," Tiho said over the radio. "Couldn't let you have all the fun," the battleship captain replied. The battle raged for hours, but slowly, surely, the tide began to turn. The humans were not just brave, they were also clever. Admiral Beak had studied the Krath for months. She knew their tactics, she knew their weaknesses, and she exploited them without mercy. The Krath fleet began to break. Ships tried to retreat. Some managed to escape. Many did not. Warlord Drex watched his forces crumble. He could not believe it. He had 400 ships. He had experience and strength and numbers on his side. How was he losing to these emotional, irrational creatures? "Enough," he finally said. "All ships retreat, full withdrawal." The Krath fleet fled. They jumped to faster-than-light travel and disappeared, leaving behind the wreckage of nearly half their force. The humans had won. On the planet below, the Velans watched the Krath ships vanish. For a long moment, no one spoke. No one could speak. They had been certain they would die today. They had been preparing to lose everything. Instead, they were free. Then the cheering began. Millions of voices rising together. Joy and relief and disbelief mixing into a sound that echoed across the planet. High Speaker Morrow fell to her knees and wept. Beside her, Kessa wept too. In orbit, the human fleet regrouped. They had taken losses, ships destroyed, lives lost, but they had done what they came to do. Admiral Beak stood on her bridge and looked at the planet below. It was a beautiful world. green and blue, like Earth but different, home to a peaceful people who had simply wanted to study the stars. "Send a message to the Velans," she ordered. "Tell them it is over. Tell them they are safe." Her communications officer sent the message. A moment later, a reply came. It was just 2 words, but they meant everything. "Thank you." Beak nodded slowly. "You are welcome," she said, even though they could not hear her. Then she turned to face her crew. "Well done," she said. "All of you. Earth will remember what you did today. The galaxy will remember. When someone helps humanity, we answer, always, without fail." Her crew stood a little straighter. They had come a long way. They had risked everything. But looking at the peaceful planet below, at the people they had saved, they knew it was worth it. Every cost, every sacrifice, every life. Worth it. Among the fleet, the Soul's Promise floated with the rest. On its bridge, Captain Tiho Park looked down at the Velen world. Somewhere down there, Kessa was waiting. He could not wait to see her again. The first human shuttle landed on Velen's soil 3 hours after the battle ended. Tiho was on it. He had asked permission from Admiral Beak personally, and she had granted it without hesitation. "Go find your friend," she had said with a rare smile. "You earned it." Now he walked down the ramp into a world he had never seen before. The Velen sky was purple and orange, colored by a sun slightly redder than Earth's. Strange plants grew everywhere, their leaves silver and blue. The air smelled different, sweeter than home. Crowds of Velans had gathered near the landing site. They watched the humans with wide eyes. Some reached out to touch them, as if making sure they were real. Tiho looked through the crowd, searching. Then he saw her. Kessa stood at the edge of the gathering, her large eyes fixed on him. She was older now, more serious. But when their eyes met, her face changed. Something soft appeared there, something warm. Tiho walked toward her. The crowd parted to let him through. When he reached her, he stopped. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Words seemed too small for what they felt. Then Kessa stepped forward and wrapped her thin arms around him. It was awkward. Velens did not normally embrace like humans did, but she had seen humans do it, and she wanted him to know that she remembered, that she was grateful, that she had missed him. Tiho hugged her back gently. "You came," Kessa whispered. "You actually came." "Of course we came," Tiho said. "You saved my life. Did you think we would forget?" Kessa pulled back and looked at him with wonder. "Many species have helped others," she said slowly. "None of them have ever come back like this. None of them have ever brought armies to answer a single act of kindness." Tiho smiled. "We are not like other species." "No," Kessa agreed, "you are not." In the council chamber, a different meeting was taking place. High Speaker Maru stood before Admiral Beak and General Lim, who had come down on the second shuttle. Elder Rovi stood nearby, still carrying the communication device that had saved his world. "I do not know how to thank you," Maru said. Her voice trembled with emotion. "We sent you a message asking for help. We hoped for perhaps a few ships, an escort, maybe some weapons. Instead, you sent your entire fleet. You came yourself. You fought and died for us." She gestured at the window, where human ships still filled the sky. "This is not balance," she continued. "We saved one life. You saved our entire civilization. We can never repay this debt." Admiral Beak shook her head. "You do not understand humans, Speaker. You showed us kindness when you had no reason to. That means more to us than you can know." She stepped closer to Maru, her sharp eyes softening for just a moment. "We do not calculate cost. We do not measure debt. We remember who stood with us in the dark. We remember who helped us when we were alone, and we answer, always, because that is who we are." General Lim nodded beside her. "When Tiho knelt before your people on Earth," he said, "he was not just speaking for himself. He was speaking for all of us. Your people became our people that day. Your problems became our problems. Your enemies became our enemies." Maru listened with tears in her eyes. She had led her people for many years. She had dealt with dozens of species. None of them had ever spoken like this. None of them had ever meant what they said so completely. "What happens now?" she asked. Admiral Beak smiled. "Now we build. We help you create defenses. We train your people to protect themselves. We share our technology and our knowledge. The Krath will think twice before coming back, and if they do come back, we will be here again." "You would stay?" Maru asked. "You would commit to protecting us permanently?" "We would sign an alliance," General Lim said. "A formal treaty, your world under our protection, your people joined with ours, not as servants or dependents but as equals, as partners." He held out his hand, a human gesture of agreement. "As family." Maru looked at his hand. She understood the gesture from her brief time with humans on Earth. She reached out and took it. "As family," she agreed. The treaty was signed that evening. Representatives from both species added their names to a document that would change the galaxy. The Velen-Human Alliance, it was called. The first of many alliances that humanity would form in the years to come. But this one was special. This one was built not on trade or strategy or mutual benefit. It was built on something simpler and stronger. It was built on kindness returned. The human fleet stayed in orbit for 2 months. Engineers helped the Velans build their first defense stations. Medical teams treated the wounded from both sides of the battle. Scientists shared information freely, learning from each other. Kessa was appointed as the first Velan ambassador to Earth. She would travel back with the human fleet and live among them, learning their ways and teaching them hers. It was a great honor, but also a sacrifice. She would be far from home for a long time. On her last night on the Velen homeworld, she walked through the gardens with Tiho. The purple sky had turned dark, filled with unfamiliar stars. "I am scared," she admitted. "Your world is so different, so loud and busy and strange." "You will be fine," Tiho said. "My people will love you. You saved one of us. That makes you a hero." "I only did what was right." "That is exactly why they will love you." Kessa stopped walking and looked up at the stars. "When I found you drifting in space," she said slowly, "I did not know what would happen. I only knew that you were dying and I could help. I never imagined that one small choice would lead to all of this." She gestured at the human ships still visible in the night sky. "Fleets and battles and treaties, the fate of worlds changed, all because we stopped to help one stranger." Tiho nodded. He had thought about this many times. "My grandmother used to say something," he said. "She said that kindness is like a stone thrown in water. You cannot see where the ripples go. You cannot know how far they will travel, but they always travel farther than you expect." Kessa looked at him. "Your grandmother sounds wise." She was. They stood in silence for a while, two creatures from different worlds, looking at the same stars. "I will miss my home," Kessa finally said. "I know, but you will make a new home, and you will always have a place with us." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small crystal. It was the token Kessa had given him 2 years ago, the symbol of Velan friendship. "You kept it," she said softly. "Of course I kept it. It reminded me of you, of what you did, of why I was still alive." He pressed it into her hand. "Take it back. Let it remind you that you are not alone, that you have friends who will cross the galaxy for you. That kindness travels farther than light." Kessa held the crystal close to her heart. She did not have the words to express what she felt, but perhaps words were not necessary. Perhaps some things were understood without speaking. 3 days later, the human fleet began its journey home. Kessa stood on the observation deck of Admiral Beak's flagship, watching her world grow smaller in the distance. Around her, human officers went about their duties, nodding to her with respect. She was nervous, she was sad, but she was also hopeful. The galaxy was a dangerous place. The Krath were still out there, along with countless other threats, but something had changed. A new force had entered the picture, a species that did not follow the old rules, a species that remembered kindness and answered it with overwhelming force. The humans would not make the galaxy safe, not by themselves, but they would try, and they would inspire others to try as well. That was perhaps their greatest gift, not their ships or their weapons or their technology, but their belief that helping others was worth any cost, their stubborn insistence that kindness should be rewarded and cruelty should be punished, their conviction that the darkness could be pushed back, one act of compassion at a time. 6 months later, Tiho returned to Busan. He visited his mother's house, where a small shrine still held the Velen crystal token. She had kept it safe while he was gone, polishing it every day. "What does it mean?" she asked him again, as she had asked many times before. Tiho looked at the crystal, glowing softly in the afternoon light. He thought about Kessa, now living in Seoul, learning human languages and making human friends. He thought about the Velen homeworld, safe and rebuilding. He thought about the message that had traveled across the stars. Please come. And they had come. They had answered. They had proven to the galaxy what it meant to be human. "It means," Tiho said quietly, "that kindness travels farther than light." His mother did not fully understand, but she saw the look in her son's eyes, and she knew it was important. Somewhere in the distance, a ship rose into the sky, carrying supplies to the Velen system. Another ship followed, and another. The alliance was growing. The connection between two species was becoming stronger every day. And across the galaxy, other species watched and wondered. Perhaps, they thought, kindness was worth the risk after all. Perhaps helping strangers was not foolish but wise. Perhaps the humans had shown them a different way to live among the stars. The stone had been thrown, the ripples were spreading, and they would travel farther than anyone could imagine.